What do you do?
I'm a Punjabi from Derby. I became the first woman of colour to do a solo expedition on the continent. I then went less than a year later back to Antarctica to attempt to do that trip. It was 70 days and 922 miles and one of the hardest things I've ever done. First female to cross the landmass in Antarctica. And my first trip was 700 miles to the South Pole, so still a huge trip. I did 16 years in the British Army. I joined the army without telling anybody in my family. I want to push boundaries, you know. I think for so long, and it's like, why?
What else you did for the preparation for this?
You know, I cut my toothbrush in half.
That makes a difference?
Even if it doesn't really make a difference, it does mentally. All of my food is out of its original packaging. Right. I will put a day's food in Ziploc bags and I'll cut it all up into smaller pieces so I don't have the wrappers of anything.
When people stop you from doing one thing, then you do it and you win.
You know, I want to go to the North Pole. It is unbelievably
ਆਪਾਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਡਿਸਕਸ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਸੀ what do you do?
Yes.
ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਵੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ 3 trips ਕੀਤੇ. Can we just briefly go through this?
Yeah, of course.
Introduce like what do you actually do?
Yeah. So I did 16 years in the army, in the British Army, and while I was in the military, I was looking for something to, you know, push my boundaries. Every year I was doing something. I did an ultra marathon, I did Tough Mudder, and I was almost looking for something. And my old boss said to me, what about Antarctica? Straight away, I was like, not a chance. I don't know anything about Antarctica. I met Ikwadi Gacy skiing and I was terrible, you know, just to try it.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm thinking, no way. But for 1 year, this stayed in my mind. What about Antarctica? And that became the appeal. How amazing would it be to go and do something that I don't know anything about? Yeah. So I went on Google like a modern day explorer, typed in how do you get to Antarctica, saw a lot of cruises, and found this logistics company. And I started looking into it. I thought, you know, I'm very ambitious. And the trip that I wanted to do was to become the first female to cross the landmass in Antarctica, over 1,000 miles. I did a load of training, and it's hard, you know, taking unpaid leave from work and all the gear. It was hard to do the training. And I did a year and a half, and then I applied through them. And the reason I applied through them is they will be my logistics. They will get me onto the ice. They will get me off the ice. And they actually said no. And I was quite surprised. I thought, you know, why couldn't I do this trip? And the reason was I didn't have enough experience. Okay. So that's why I actually did my first trip. Excuse me. And my first trip was 700 miles to the South Pole. So still a huge trip, but slightly smaller. Yeah. And I was prepared for that one. I'd done the same training, and that trip went relatively well. It was 40 days, and I became the first woman of colour to do a solo expedition on the continent. And I did hallucinate at the end, though, because I was very sleep deprived. Yep. And I was so sleep deprived that I ended up seeing a little dog and an old lady and Medinalisi, so I wasn't that lonely for like the last day. Luckily, I realised that something wasn't right, and I stopped and put my tent up and made a phone call on my satellite phone. But things can get dangerous very quickly. Yeah. Anyway, I made it to the pole less than a year later. I got back. I applied to do the land crossing. The logistics company said yes. And I then went less than a year later back to Antarctica to attempt to do that trip. I didn't make it. It was 70 days and 922 miles and one of the hardest things I've ever done. And that trip was pretty brutal. 120 kilos in my sled. I had quite a few injuries, one on my leg, on my neck. I ran out of pain relief on the way. I was struggling at the end, almost walking in slow motion. And I can talk about that trip a lot because I learned a lot from that trip. So the last 14 days, I was skiing 24 hours a day. You have 24 hours of daylight in Antarctica. The reason I was doing that is I thought maybe I can make the end. Yeah. Not only did I not make the end, but because I was struggling so much at the start, it was almost like I had dug a hole and I couldn't get out of the hole. And I just kept digging deeper and deeper. With my injuries, with the way I was managing myself, with my sleep, I was all over the place. Yeah. And all that resulted in, like, the last 14 days, I just kept going slower and slower, almost like I was crawling at the end. Yeah. And then they told me I wasn't going to make the end point, and that was pretty hard. I then came back less than a year later, which I didn't think I was going to get the female speed record, so 700 miles to the South Pole, which was a beautiful trip. So my second trip, which I didn't make, finished on the 23rd of January,
ਹਾਂਜੀ
2023. And then the speed record I actually got on the 28th of December 2023. So
Last
same
year?
23.
23,
Yeah,
okay.
so same year. And that, my first two trips were in the media. They were everywhere. I told everybody. Third trip, I didn't tell anybody.
So you feel like you're now addicted to this?
I think you do get addicted.
Yeah.
I think you do get addicted for sure. I think that last one was a personal win, you know, like after going through quite a big failure. And I don't see failure as a negative thing. I learned more from that failure than I have any of my successes. I think that's the reason I even got a speed record. How can me, you know, I didn't even ski, get like the speed record. And I think that taught me so much, that trip.
So ਜਦੋਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ 922 miles, that's like
ਹਾਂਜੀ।
1400 kilometer plus.
ਹਾਂਜੀ।
When you're walking, literally ਆਪਾਂ ਕੀ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ ਕਿ ਜਦੋਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਚਲੋ ਇੱਥੇ ਵੀ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਆ ਹਾਈਕ ਤੇ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਆ
Yes, yeah.
there are views, you know, you can see, you can feel, you feel motivated. ਹਾਂ ਉੱਤੇ ਜਾਵਾਂਗੇ ਹੋਰ ਵਧੀਆ view ਹੋਗਾ. But you're walking on ice.
Yeah.
It's white, there's no views,
ਹਾਂਜੀ।
it's boring.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think you sort of ਇੱਦਾਂ ਕਹਿ ਸਕਦੇ ਕਿ you question yourself, like ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਨਾਲ ਸਿਰਫ time ਬਤੀਤ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ ਨਾ. Does it get scary at sometimes?
It does, because utte kuch nahi hunda. So you do a 360 and it all looks the same.
Yeah.
And so I have a compass in front of me and I have my GPS. That's how I know which direction I'm going in and where I am. And physically, it's a hard trip. Mentally, it's something else. You can, you know, I think I was in a mental prison at times and I just couldn't get out of this prison. And that is incredibly hard. And I realized that back in normal life, I don't think there's some problems I've ever solved. I think I've just distracted myself, but I didn't know that until I was on the ice. So imagine you're in a difficult moment. You know, you might watch TV, talk to some friends, go for a run, all of these things that we do probably to distract ourselves. And I don't think I realized it that much until I was on the ice. And everything, you know, when you're in hard times, when you're physically struggling with something, that's when it's mentally hard as well, Hannah. And that's when I was really struggling. So my biggest fear for the second trip was fear of failing. And it's funny because I did fail. And I thought to myself, where did that even come from? And people said to me afterwards, you know, it's not a failure. People don't like the word. And even for my entire life, you know, you can't fail. Failing's bad. That's what we've always been told. But I don't think failing is bad. I think it's good to fail. You know, it shows me that I pushed myself so far to a point where it's possible to fail. And that trip, I think about it all the time, even now. And, you know, I think about it when I'm trying to do something that's so challenging, like go to the North Pole. I don't even know if I would have been able to think of doing that trip if I hadn't gone through that failure. It gave me a lot and made me realize how capable I am. And I think that's because it broke me completely. And it was a really hard year coming out of that. But I'm really glad I went through it.
ਜਦ ਤੀਜੀ ਵਾਰੀ ਕਰਿਆ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉਦੋਂ preparation ਕੋਈ different ਕਰੀ ਸੀ just so you can you know
I'll be honest, I was doing rehab. So after my second trip, I didn't think when I finished I was like, no way, I'm not going back next season. so then I'm rehabilitating, had surgery latte, and I'm rehabilitating, and then like July I'm thinking I wonder if I could go for the record, but I thought it would be the year after. But circumstances changed and I thought maybe I could. So I'm always rehabbing. I was always doing exercise, and I'm a physiotherapist as well, which I think is quite helpful for my training. And so I was always working with somebody. But I went to Norway for a week and I spoke to some people who, you know, are experts. And I said, what could I change? And I said that because if you go back and do the same thing over and over again, there's not going to be different results. So we talked about my technique. We talked about what different boots I could use, if they could be lighter skis. So I did make changes.
Okay, you did.
Yeah, I did make changes. Yeah, I had to. And it was a risk because I thought with the lighter skis and the lighter boots, I said, what if my feet get cold? And like, well, if you're quick enough, they won't. I'm like, am I quick enough on skis? You know, is that something I can do? And obviously it worked. But yeah, it was a risk. Yeah.
So why you do what you do?
Why do I do what I do? And why do I do these
So
expeditions?
like, ਜੋ ਵੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ
ਹਾਂਜੀ, ਕਿਉਂ
ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ?
I want to push boundaries. You know, I think for so long, ਜਦੋਂ ਮੈਂ ਛੋਟੀ ਸੀ, I'm told, ਇਹ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ, ਉਹ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ. And it's like, why can't you do those things? So for me, it's often about pushing boundaries. And it was amazing. I remember being told I wasn't smart enough to get into university.
Yeah.
And I got in. I was like, wow, if I could do that, what else can I do? You know, and so it's not just adventurous, everything. I then, I did a half marathon. What else can I do? I did a marathon.
That's crazy.
What else can I do?
Yeah.
And they've just gotten a bit bigger and bigger. And it's amazing now how, like, when people say to me, oh, you know, you can't do that, I think, well, how do you know what I'm capable of? I don't even know what I'm capable of. And how amazing is that? And that's the message I really want to show, not just young people, but everybody. You are capable of so much more than you could possibly imagine.
That's crazy you mentioned that, because I know, you know, Stephen Bartlett, he's a Dari CEO. He shared this thing. You know, they put an ant on the piece of paper like white, and there's an ant, and they drew a circle around the ant, and the ant just obviously go to the end of the circle, like the boundaries, and just wouldn't go.
Yeah.
But then when the ants literally, you know, running on the paper, they drew a circle just when the ant's about to cross that thing. So mistakenly, the ant crosses the line, obviously, because ant's going with the speed. So once the ant knows, oh, I can cross that line, every time they drew another circle, ant wouldn't stop at the boundaries. And that's very similar what you described. And when you know that, then you start seeing challenges as other questions.
Yeah. But that comfort zone gets bigger, huh?
Yeah.
So, and I think the thing is as well, we have to realize that pushing out of your comfort zone, it's not comfortable. And often people don't realize that it's not supposed to be comfortable. And I'm not saying do something, you know, huge straight away, but it's good to be, if you can find that if you can find that little bit of comfort within the uncomfortableness, that's so powerful.
Yeah.
Do you think if those people didn't say that to you, that you can't, you still would have achieved what you have?
That's a really good question, because I think early on, so I think I used to get really like angry. Okay. And I think for a while, people would tell me to use that, you know, and I was like, I can go do this anyway. You know, I got into university, I can go and do this. I joined the army without telling anybody in my family. And, you know, certain people weren't very happy when I did, wanted me to leave. I decided I wanted to stay in. But I realized that it was actually, the gosai, it was heavy. You know, I was like, why am I carrying this with me? Yeah, it was like heavy. Like this weight is making my sled heavier when I'm in Antarctica. This is not why I'm doing it. You know, I'm not doing it to prove people wrong. This isn't about them anymore. So I think early on, I think it did drive me, if I'm honest. Okay. And then I realized actually this is heavy. Like this, what I'm trying to do is so much bigger than, I don't want to do these things out of spite. Okay. It's not healthy for me. It's not good for me to do like that.
I want to ask just on that one.
Yeah.
About minimalism.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned why I'm carrying this weight.
Yeah.
And when you go to these expeditions, let's just say you have to climb Mount Everest tomorrow, you would only carry what you need.
Yes.
Right? What do you learn from going to these trips? I don't need to buy the stuff. I don't need, how did it affect your life outside expeditions?
Angie, so you're right. So on trips, I mean, I cut the labels out of my clothing to give you an idea of how minimalist it is. You know, I cut my toothbrush in half. I want to reduce weight wherever I can. I mean, the heaviest that sled
makes
is.
a difference, like toothbrush and half.
Well, the sled's 120 kilograms. So even if it doesn't really make a difference, it does mentally.
Yeah.
Because I know I've done everything I can
to shed off
the weight. Hannah? So I think that helps me. I know that I've done everything I can, because you know, if I haven't, and I've got labels in every single bit of my clothing, I have, I'm sure the tiny little things, they all make a difference.
Oh, yeah. What else you did for the preparation for this?
So much. So in terms of weight, so all of my food is out of its original packaging. So nothing is in its original packaging. Right. I will put a day's food in Ziploc bags, and I'll cut it all up into smaller pieces, so I don't have the wrappers of anything. On every food bag, I then wrote a message, and they were messages from people on social media, LinkedIn. They're people I didn't know a lot of the time, and I'd write their name on the bag to remind myself that I wasn't alone. And a lot of that is, I think, me you know, it's not just about me, it's about the people I'm bringing with me. Like, I didn't grow up learning about Antarctica, the South Pole. Like, I didn't know what these places were or who the, you know, explorers before me. I didn't know anything about that at all. I didn't even know what an explorer was. So I tried to bring a lot of that with me. But just back to how that affected kind of life back home, I think just simplifying things. I think just, I would say I'm much better of putting boundaries in place now and not getting involved in everything. And, you know, whether it's the dramas or anything, just trying to focus on, because what I found very hard, it's, you know, hard to do a trip, but coming back, that's hard.
That's really interesting, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਆਪਾਂ ਜਦੋਂ ਘਰੇ ਵਾਰਡਰੋਬ ਵੀ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਨਾ ਕਿਸੇ ਦੀ, it's full of clothes, especially ਆਪਣੇ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਸੂਟ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਨਾ ਜਿਹੜੇ, not saying it's wrong, but ਕੁੜੀਆਂ ਕੀ ਕਰਦੀਆਂ, like every year they go to India, they will bring these tons of Punjabi clothes. ਤੇ ਉਹ ਉੱਥੇ ਉਦਾਂ ਹੀ ਪੈ ਰਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ. And that's what I, you know, sort of was frustrating for me, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਮੇਰੀ wardrobe ਵੀ ਇਦਾਂ ਸੀਗੀ, ਮੈਂ ਕੱਪੜੇ ਲੈਣੇ ਇਦਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਕਰਨੀਆਂ ਹਨਾ. And I started cutting it off. I'm like, ਕਿ ਆ ਜਿਹੜੇ 80% ਕੱਪੜੇ ਆ ਮੈਂ ਤਾਂ ਇਹੀ ਯੂਜ਼ ਕਰ ਰਿਹਾ, the 20% I'm not even, you know, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਮਤਲਬ ਕਰ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ. ਸੋ ਮੈਂ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਕਲੀਨ ਕਰਾਂ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਉਹ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ. ਤਾਂ ਇੱਕ wardrobe ਨੂੰ ਕਲੀਨ ਕਰਨਾ, it impacted my mentality, like everywhere I went. ਮੈਂ ਉਹੀ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਕੀਤੀਆਂ, ਮਤਲਬ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਮੇਰਾ ਟਾਈਮ ਵਰਥ ਵੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ, ਮੈਂ ਉੱਥੇ ਵੀ ਨੋ ਕਹਿਣੀ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਕਰਤੀ. You know, I'm literally not wasting anything in my life. So it's good. Yeah,
well, people, without realizing it, you know, will often waste your time, not because they want to, but because, you know, everybody has, you know, what they want or what they need in their mind. And if you say yes to everyone, it's exhausting. You know, it's I remember getting back from a really difficult expedition. I came back and my mum, you know, I don't really want to see anybody. I just want, and she's like, no, it's okay. People are coming to see me. I was like, no, Mum, they're not. They're coming because they want to see me. And she's like, oh, but it's only so-and-so. It's only so-and-so. And I'm like, I'm exhausted. I just need to put those boundaries in place. But we know very well that in our community, I don't think, you know, boundaries are very well, I don't know, understood, respected.
I guess it's a good thing at the same time as well. I know, like, sometimes you just want to be with yourself.
Yes,
like, especially after, you know, going through what you have. But then at the same time, it's great that people are coming in. Just relationships are so valuable, as you know.
100%. I think, so someone asked me what the biggest change I saw from family was. And I think before going on the first trip, nobody really understood, you know, what I was doing. And it was just Preet just doing her thing again, you know. And when I came back from my second trip, my mum, my brother, niece, nephew, they all surprised me, and they were at the airport. And I wouldn't have told them to come because I didn't look great. I had frost snip marks on my face. I was hobbling, you know, I looked quite frail. And they don't normally see me that way. But they were amazing. And I think people show you that love and care in different ways. And it was, you know, little things like I was staying at home for a little while and Mum making me food, her love language, you know, things like that make you feel very cared for and supported. So it was really great having them.
ਮੈਂ ਨਾ ਉਹ ਸੁਣਦਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਡੇਵਿਡ ਗੌਗਨ ਨੂੰ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ. I've listened to him, I've read his books. ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਕਿ when I do run like ultra marathon running ਕਰਦਾ 200 ਮੀਲ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ ਜਾਂ ਕਿੰਨੇ ਵੀ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ, it's not just running. ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦਾ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ 4-5 ਸਾਲਾਂ ਦੀ ਡਿਗਰੀ ਕਰ ਲਈ ਉਸ ਰਨਿੰਗ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਨੂੰ ਸਵਾਲ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ, ਯੂ ਨੋ, ਲਾਈਕ ਜਵਾਬ ਆ ਰਹੇ. ਮੈਂ ਵੀ ਦੇਖਿਆ ਜਦੋਂ ਮੈਂ ਰਨਿੰਗ ਕਰ ਜਾਂਦਾ, ਮੈਂ ਓਬਵੀਅਸਲੀ ਨਾਟ ਦੈਟ ਲੌਂਗ ਬਟ 20-40 ਕਿਲੋਮੀਟਰ ਇੱਦਾਂ ਸਮਥਿੰਗ ਹੋ ਗਿਆ. ਵੈਨ ਆਈ ਫਿਨਿਸ਼ ਇਟ I just know a lot about myself, ਜਿਹੜਾ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਘਰੇ ਬੈਠੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਪਤਾ ਲੱਗਦਾ, ਭਾਵੇਂ ਮੈਂ ਜਿੰਨਾ ਮਰਜ਼ੀ ਸੋਚੀ ਜਾਵਾਂ ਕਿ you know, like just sitting there. Do you feel that as well?
Anji, completely. You learn so much about yourself.
Anji.
So much about yourself. And not just, I'll be honest with you, if anybody asked me my strength, I would say I'm mentally resilient. Even like through the military, I'd say that's my strength. And that tested me. Being alone on the ice, that really tested me in ways that I didn't think, how can you prepare for something like that? That I don't think I realised how much it would test me. I think it completely broke me down. I've never been in a situation where I thought I just cannot go anymore, and that was the case. I was at a point before, and this is a point where they've put the aircraft now. I'm not finishing. They have put the aircraft at a point where they think I can get to with the time I have left. A few days before that, I call on my satellite phone. I don't even know if I can make it there. I'm in such pieces. And when I say pieces, I mean, so one of the injuries was my neck as well. I'm skiing 2 hours at a time and having a break 2 hours for 24 hours a day before sleeping. I was falling 14 times every 2 hours. My neck pain was so bad, I'm lifting it up with my ski poles. There's like these ridges in the ice that are like shaped by the wind. I'm falling, I'm hitting my head. I check there's no blood. Like, it was almost, I think if anybody was watching me, I would have been moving in slow motion. I don't have any pain relief. I have one tablet of codeine left for the last 14 days. I took that in the last 48 hours. So it was just, it was quite unreal. And there was, I was listening to music on Apple Music, which I didn't realize I would still have because Spotify runs out after 30 days. Apple Music doesn't. So I had the same 4 hours of music on repeat that I was listening to. And and then, you know, when I'm finding it difficult, I either count to 100 over and over again. But when it's harder, I count slower. So I'll count 1, breathe like a couple of times, 2, breathe a couple of times. If I fall, I start again. And then for my entire life, whenever I'm scared, I say, Waheguru Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. And I repeat it like a mantra. So mixture, everything. I have Jay Sean, I've got Diljit Dosanjh, I have like, everything.
Which one really helped? Was it all of them?
I think it's nice to have ones that have memories. And I think for me, like, it's nostalgic. So I'll think, so for example, when I listen to Vibe from Diljit Dosanjh, that reminds me of my nephew because he used to smile. When he was a kid, that song would come on. He'd get really excited. Yeah. So for me, it's, or I listen to like, you know, Jay Sean, Eyes on You. I do remember like from the past. So it's a mixture. Or I used to love watching Hindi films. So if I listen to like Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gham soundtrack and things like that, I quite like having on route as well.
So had you situation the which other koi backup plan hunda thode kole matlab like worst case situation?
Yes.
Something happens.
Yeah, and that's really important. So anything I do will have standard operating procedures. You know, risk management is incredibly important. And the reason I couldn't go and do that second trip straight away is because this logistics company had said no, because, you know, they don't want to take the risk. They decide that I don't have enough experience, and that's fair enough. Yeah. So I did the first trip to show that I was competent, and then they have a better feeling about, okay, you know, now she's done that and she's, So I have a satellite phone, and every single day I check in with that company. And I call them at the same time every day. So my time, it's decided beforehand, 9:30. Right. I'm calling them and I say to them, this is my GPS location and I'm doing okay. When I'm on the ice, I'm not very talkative. I find, you know, because when I'm calling them, I'm putting my tent up. I want to set my stove up and do things and go to sleep. So it's, for me, normally it was, I'm okay, this is where I am, all good.
Just a quick.
Yeah, just a quick. But the SOP, so the standard operating procedure, if I missed a call, the next day they would come looking for me based on my last GPS location.
You know, I used to do public speaking. I public speaking club join kariya siga ode apne Toastmasters ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਇਹਨੂੰ. I don't know if you heard of it.
I have, yeah.
ਹਾਂਜੀ ਤੇ ਉੱਥੇ ਨਾ ਮੈਂ ਕਈ ਵਾਰੀ ਸਪੀਚ ਵਾਲਾ ਦਿਨ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਸੀ ਮੇਰਾ ਕਿ ਡਿਫਰੈਂਟ ਰੋਲਸ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਨੇ ਤੇ ਉਦੋਂ ਨੇ ਕਈ ਵਾਰੀ ਮੇਰੇ ਦਿਮਾਗ 'ਚ ਇੰਨਾ ਪ੍ਰੈਸ਼ਰ ਪੈ ਜਾਣਾ ਕਿ ਯਾਰ ਮੈਂ ਇੰਨੇ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦੇ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਬੋਲੂ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ I would just call and say I can't come, I'm sick or something.
Now he's doing a podcast.
Now I'm doing a podcast.
But you know what I think is so powerful is reminding yourself of that time. I forget often. And like, you forget where we were.
That's it, yeah.
Because we normalize where we're at now, which is great, but also it's good to remember that.
Yeah. So I was just thinking, like, since you have a backup plan, मतलब तुझे call करके ना update देने हो, उत्थे so many times थोड़े दिमाग च आंदा ही हुई यार चल phone तो option हैगी या.
The thing is though, I've been preparing for this for not, you know, we can say 2 years, but for me it feels like my whole life. You know, this isn't just about me. You know, I'm a Punjabi kudi from Derby who, you know, often felt like I had to be smaller. You know, I was told I have to fit into these spaces. So this is not just me going there. And for me, it feels like I have a whole community behind me, and, you know, they're like half invisible, but I can see them. And they are there with me on the ice. They're there with me. They are there in my highs, in my lows. And I have voice notes that I've downloaded on my phone, and they're from close family and friends, and I listen to them when, you know, like on the times that it's hard, And I've got from my mum and my niece Simran, so I have their voices with me. My sled is named Simran every year, so I have a sticker with her name. My nephews now have, they're a little bit younger. Each skier is my nephew, so it's, you know, if I'm finding it hard, I kind of say tough, Preet. You know, this isn't just about you. This is bigger than you.
Yeah.
So I think remembering that helps me.
ਮੈਂ ਵੀ ਦੇਖ ਰਿਹਾ ਸੀ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਉੱਥੇ ਆਈ ਥਿੰਕ ਯੂ ਮੇਡ ਅ ਵੀਡੀਓ ਕਿ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਗਨ ਵੀ ਰੱਖਣੀ ਪੈਂਦੀ ਫॉर ਦ ਬੀਅਰ ਹੈ ਨਾ ਤੇ ਓਬਵੀਅਸਲੀ ਉੱਥੇ ਮੌਸਮ ਵੀ ਇਦਾਂ ਦਾ ਹੋਊਗਾ ਕਿ ਰਾਤ ਨੂੰ ਵਿੰਡਸ ਵੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਤੇਜ਼ ਚੱਲਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਵੈਨ ਯੂ ਗੋ ਟੂ ਸਲੀਪ ਡੂ ਯੂ ਸਮ ਟਾਈਮ ਫੀਲ ਕਿ ਵਾਟ ਇਫ ਆਈ ਡੋਂਟ ਵੇਕ ਅਪ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਸਲੀਪ 'ਚ ਤਾਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਯੂ ਆਰ ਨੋਟ ਏਬਲ ਟੂ ਡੂ ਐਨੀਥਿੰਗ ਹੈ ਨਾ ਕੁਛ ਵੀ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ 'ਤੇ ਅਟੈਕ ਵੀ ਕਰ ਸਕਦਾ ਇਫ ਵਿੰਡਸ ਦੇ ਡੂ ਯੂ ਹੈਵ ਥੀਸ
ਸੋ ਮਾਈ ਫਰਸਟ ਟ੍ਰਿਪ the wind was very heavy on one day, and I was putting my tent up and the tent blew away, and I've like in that moment I was just like, so it was I was lucky because a couple of meters and I grabbed it, but if that had gone I mean I had a shovel, so I'd probably have to dig down and then call the logistics company and say and tell them. I said I just cannot be in that position. So after that, I was much better at anchoring the tent down in the snow, because you anchor it and then you put the poles up, and then if it's windy, you know, it starts to blow. So you have to, and it's much harder to do on your own. I'd say the second trip, I did, have some very strong winds, but when I'm in the tent, I know I'm in the tent, so I will weigh the tent down as well. And I think challenging, and sleeping wise, every time I think I put my head down, I was exhausted. I overslept a few times, and my routine wasn't good. I was, even from the start of that trip, I was doing 15 hours ski, 4 hours sleep, 16 hours ski, 4 hours sleep. And that's because the weather was rough and I was so scared of not making it to the end that I actually made it worse for myself. I pushed too hard. And I don't think that's a good mentality to have. And I think part of that is from my military time as well, you know, just keep pushing. Keep pushing, that grit and determination, push through. Actually, you know, that's not always helpful. You need to know when to recover. My speed record, I slept 8 hours every night. So, you know, and I was much quicker. So I think that's really important as well.
ਤੁਸੀਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਕਹਿ ਰਹੇ ਸੀਗੇ ਕਿ ਬਹੁਤ ਜਣਿਆਂ ਨੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਜਾਣੀ ਦੀ ਵੀ ਸਟਾਪ ਕਰਨ ਦੀ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਕਰੀ ਹੈ ਨਾ, ਵੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਕਦੇ, ਇੱਦਾਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ, ਜਾਂ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਨੋਰਮ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਨੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਬ੍ਰੇਕ ਕਰਕੇ ਨਿਕਲੇ ਹੋ ਨਾ, ਆਊਟਸਾਈਡ ਦੈਟ ਯੂ ਡਿਡ ਅ ਲੋਟ ਆਫ ਥਿੰਗਸ। ਸੋ ਕਈ ਵਾਰੀ ਐਂ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਵੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਨੂੰ ਚੈੱਕ 'ਚ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਰੱਖਦੇ ਹੋ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਜਦ ਬੰਦਾ ਹਮੇਸ਼ਾ ਵੈਨ ਪੀਪਲ ਸਟਾਪ ਯੂ ਫਰੋਮ ਡੂਇੰਗ ਵਨ ਥਿੰਗ, ਫਿਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉਹ ਚੀਜ਼ ਫਿਰ ਵੀ ਕਰ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਹੋ ਐਂਡ ਯੂ ਵਿਨ, ਰਾਈਟ। ਇੱਦਾਂ ਕਈ ਛੋਟੀਆਂ ਵਿਨਸ ਹੋਈਆਂ ਨੇ, ਅਤੇ ਉੱਥੋਂ ਫਿਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਐਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਨੂੰ ਚੈੱਕ 'ਚ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਰੱਖ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ ਕਿ ਯਾਰ ਆਈ ਐਮ ਨੋਟ ਮੇਬੀ ਮੈਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਇਗਨੋਰ ਤਾਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਨ ਲੱਗ ਗਈ ਇਹ ਚੱਕਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਮੇਰੇ 'ਚ ਕਿਤੇ ਮੈਂ ਮਤਲਬ ਇਗਨੋਰੈਂਟ ਨਾ ਹੋਵੇਗਾ completely. So just to make sure, you know, I'm staying humble and still, you know, keeping mind open. They could be right. What cheez does you can maintain rakhdhe ho?
So I think, so I have like good conversations with my partner as well, who, you know, if I'll say, oh, I want to run across India now, he said, okay, well, let's focus on the next trip first. And it's not, you know, I want to go to the North Pole. It is unbelievably hard. It is, Antarctica was hard. This is a whole different level. So we prepare for that. That is really important. So it's not, you know, if somebody said to see any guys like that, I'll say, okay, cool. You know, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. What are the reasons why? So I won't not listen. I will listen. It's not that I just ignore people. I will listen to, you know, what the reasons are. And if we can have, you know, a conversation about it or a debate, great. A lot of the time I found it's like, no, you just can't because, you know. So and then talk about it and decide what the risks are and, you know, if it's worth doing it and how we can mitigate those risks. So I'll always go through those conversations first with people.
You know, going through tough situation made me like कि ਜਦੋਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਬਾਹਰ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਆ, you know, you come to the real world. People have day-to-day problems. or ਕਈ ਲੋਕੀ ਸ਼ਰਾਬ ਵੀ ਪੀਂਦੇ ਆ, you know, drugs ਲੈਂਦੇ ਆ. And I started looking at that ਕਿ ਮਤਲਬ they're wasting their life. But day-to-day problems ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਲੈ ਲਓ, ਕੋਈ ਮੇਰੇ ਕੋਲ ਆ ਕੇ ਕੋਈ ਕਹੂਗਾ ਕਿ you know I have this problem, ਤਾਂ ਮੈਂ ਤਾਂ ਆਪਣੀ ਮੈਂਟੈਲਿਟੀ ਨਾਲ ਸੋਚ ਰਿਹਾ ਨਾ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਕਿੰਨੀ ਕੁ ਵੱਡੀ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮ, but that person may be have different mentality, ਹੈ ਨਾ. Now when you come to the real world, how do you take when people come to you, okay, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਕੋਲ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮ ਆ?
I think thoda time lagda. So when I'm back, I have to remember that I'm still recovering. And I don't think I often realize that, especially my last one where I thought, oh, I did so much better on that trip. You know, and then I realize I'm still recovering, and I find I can be a little bit impatient when I'm just back, which is why I try to put the boundary there, so that because everybody wants to see you when you're back, and you just need time to settle in.
Acclimatize.
100%, because that's the time where I don't think I'd manage it very well if somebody comes to me with henna. But after time, it's a little bit easier. And then it's remembering that everybody, you know, I get frustrated with my mum. Me and my mum have had the most different upbringings, and like, you know, the amount of opportunities I've had that she didn't have is unbelievable. Like, how can I compare, you know? So I always trying to get my mum to push her boundaries, and often, you know, I really am pushing her to do so. But when she does, oh man, she climbs Snowdon. So Snowdon is a hike in the UK.
Yeah.
And she's never, you know, like done mountaineering, like hiking. She walks around Derby is what she does. And it was a really hot day. It took her 11 hours, got to the top though. So proud of her. But not just me being proud of her, but her being proud of herself. You know, like she did something like this. She didn't know
which
that
is very
world,
important,
like at all. So it's, yes, they call me the pusher in my family. Pusher. Yeah, I think I'm the encourager, I would say. But I do, you know, and that's because I know what it gives you.
100%.
You know, and I know what it will give them as well, if they do. So I can get frustrated, but I do have to check myself as well. And sometimes your worlds apart, and you do have to remember that people, you know, come from different backgrounds and had different lives, and that all shapes who you are. I'm shaped now because of the experiences I've had. A lot of people haven't had experiences where they've pushed so far out of their comfort zone as well.
That's crazy.
Jad tusi chote sige, a lot younger, that time, were you still always resilient?
I think so. So I've got 2 older brothers. So anything they did, I wanted to do as well.
Okay.
And that helps. You know, and yeah, like I think I have always been resilient, doing things with them. And I just think as I've gotten older, I have probably been more verbal, or, you know, taken more actions towards what I want to do. Even so, I haven't got my rookery on right now because I haven't been home. But, you know, since I can remember, I've been tying rookery on my brothers. And a couple of years ago, I said, I think we should do it both ways. And every time I suggest anything, everyone's like, oh, Preet. But we do now. We tie it on each other because you know, why shouldn't I have that love and protection too? I'm going to do. And my rookery are the only things that I keep on while I'm doing these expeditions. That isn't part of my trips. So the reason I haven't got them on yet is I haven't been home yet since rookery. And then I will basically organise an activity for me and my brothers to do. So it's a surprise activity generally. So I like to lure them into a false sense of security, and then I will be like, bam, we're jumping out of a plane. I haven't done that yet.
You haven't done that. They're listening to this.
Yeah.
ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਰਵੀ ਸਿੰਘ ਭਾਜੀ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਸੀ ਸਿਮਿਲਰ ਕਿ ਜਦੋਂ ਕਿਤੇ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਆ ਦੂਸਰੀ ਕੰਟਰੀ ਯੂ نو ਹੈਲਪ ਆਊਟ ਦੇਅਰਸ ਅ ਵਾਰ ਸਿਚੁਏਸ਼ਨ ਇਦਾਂ ਦੀ ਐਂਡ ਸਮਟਾਈਮਸ ਦੇ ਹੈਵ ਨੀਅਰ ਡੈਥ ਐਕਸਪੀਰੀਅੰਸ ਤਾਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪੁੱਛ ਰਿਹਾ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਹਾਊ ਡੂ ਯੂ ਮੇਕ ਸ਼ੋਰ ਵੈਨ ਯੂ ਲੀਵ ਯੋਰ ਫੈਮਿਲੀ ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਸੇਮ ਕੁਐਸਚਨ ਪੁੱਛੂੰਗਾ ਕਿ ਜਦੋਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਫੈਮਿਲੀ ਨੂੰ ਛੱਡਦੇ ਆ ਜਦੋਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਆ ਹਾਊ ਡੂ ਯੂ ਮੇਕ ਸ਼ੋਰ ਕਿ ਦੇ ਆਰ ਅਸ਼ੋਰਡ ਕਿ ਯੂ ਵਿਲ ਬੀ ਬੈਕ
I think my mummy knew. I don't think I tell her the whole story.
Yeah.
I think she will. My 3rd trip, I think my words were, it's a smaller trip. It's much smaller. So yeah, because you know, Mum, she does worry, and when I'm on the ice, I do a voicemail every day, and that you can actually listen to my voice. You can go on the website and you can hear it. And she can hear my voice going down and down, you know, as I'm talking. So she worries a lot. So I don't want them to worry. And, you know, I tell them that I've taken all the precautions I can. I actually do have comms with my babbi, with my sister-in-law, so she can message me. So over Christmas last couple of years, she's messaged on, I have an InReach device to give like messages from everybody, which is really nice. And yeah, I think they see the bigger picture as well. And they see what I'm trying to achieve, and they see, you know, I wanted to inspire my niece to start with, but then it just has become so much bigger than, you know, just her. But she's a big part of my inspiration, and I wanted her to grow up knowing she could do anything and everything. And, I'm often asked, do I want her to do adventures or join the military? Honestly, no. I just want her to know that she can. Like her dressing up as me for like World Book Day was just incredible because she's dressed as an explorer, Punjabi explorer.
Yeah.
And when other, young people did that too, it was pretty incredible because I want them to know they can achieve anything. Not because it's easy, it'll be hard. There's always lows. I always want to be honest about that because achieving dreams isn't easy. There will be tough times, but there is often
opportunities.
Yeah, there's opportunities. There's that light at the end of the tunnel when it gets
it's interesting you mentioned ਸਾਡੀ ਨਾ ਇੱਕ podcast ਸੀਗੀ ਹਰਜਾਬ ਬੰਗਲ ਨਾਲ he's an immigration lawyer in UK and he was saying ਜਦੋਂ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਕੁੜੀਆਂ ਵਿਆਹ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਵਾ they don't understand their worth ਕਿ obviously pregnancy very early after the marriage and ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ partners ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ they obviously push them like pigeonhole them ਕਿ ਤੂੰ ਤਾਂ ਬੱਚੇ ਦਾ ਖਿਆਲ ਰੱਖਣਾ ਵਾ and that's it first child and then second child ਕਈ ਵਾਰੀ ਤਾਂ ਨਾ ਗਿਆ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਕੁੜੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਆ ਉਹ ਮੁੰਡੇ ਨਾਲੋਂ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਪੜ੍ਹੀ ਲਿਖੀ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਆ the ਕੁੜੀ has done the MA or BA in India ਤੇ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਮੁੰਡਾ 10ਵੀਂ 12ਵੀਂ ਪਾਸ ਹੀ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਵਾ ਪਰ ਉਹ ਚੀਜ਼ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਹੋ ਕਿ I think girls we should be same and that's what we're trying but ਅਜੇ ਵੀ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਉਹ ਲੈਵਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਅਚੀਵ ਕੀਤਾ within Punjabi community. How do you see that? Is that part of your mission as well?
Yeah, I mean, Guru Nanak Ji said himself, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand why or at what point this has come to, like, that boy should be seen as more than. So, 100%. I think that needs to start from when people are young. It should be like, everybody getting involved, everybody doing things. Like, it's not only a female's job. It's a partnership.
Yeah.
So you do those things together, and females are capable of achieving so much.
Yeah.
So much, and I want to see them thrive.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't we? Like it baffles me when people don't want that or don't see that, and I think just people getting to know their own self-worth as well, but. To get to know your own self-worth, that's, it's not just you, it's other people need to give you the opportunity to be able to do that as well. Yeah. So if you are the only person doing the childcare, and I've seen it over and over again, that it's their responsibility. So it's not their responsibility. There's two parents here. There's a community here. Let's help, let's support rather than judging. And, every time somebody I've seen wanting to do something a little bit different, it's often, why can't you just do what you're supposed to do? You're a mother or, this is your main job. And I don't think it should be that way.
ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਲਾਸਟ ਤੇ ਕੁਐਸਚਨ ਪੁੱਛੂੰਗਾ ਕਿ ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਲੈਗੇਸੀ ਆਪਣੀ ਛੱਡ ਕੇ ਜਾਣੀ you're still working on it but let's just say next 10 years next 20 years what's in your mind ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਇੱਦਾਂ ਦੀ ਲੈਗੇਸੀ ਛੱਡ ਕੇ ਜਾਣੀ ਕਿ if people talk about Polar Preet you become the history what should they know you as?
Just to remember that ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜੋ ਵੀ ਕਰਨਾ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ
ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜੋ ਵੀ ਕਰਨਾ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ that's really powerful. Like, it's very small but powerful.
Yeah, that you can. It doesn't need to be big. I don't need my name to be remembered. I don't need, and I think maybe actually I was just in the States, and one of the feedback I said I'm trying to get funding for my next trip was that you're very relatable and authentic, but you're not good at marketing yourself. And it's interesting because growing up, I remember growing up around some, more arrogant people, and I remember thinking I don't want to be that way. But then there becomes a way where almost you have it trying to be over humble, and it's like actually you need to market yourself 100%. Because you need, So I don't necessarily need my name to be remembered. I just want people to see somebody who they didn't expect in this space.
Yeah.
A Punjabi woman from Derby, born in the UK, doing something that wasn't expected, that she was told she couldn't do, and did. I didn't come out of school with much education. There are so many things I have failed at, and it's hard work, but you can do it.
Yeah.
Like it's incredible. So that's what I want to say.
I have actually one more question.
Yeah, go for it.
Related to what you just said. You said you can do whatever you want to do, but where is the power of like having a mentor and coach who is experienced and who has probably been through that journey, and then they're probably telling you, no, these are your strengths. This is what you need to focus on. This is what you need to do. You can't do everything.
Yeah, 100%.
But you need to focus on the strengths.
Yeah. So I think it's really powerful to have a mentor.
Yeah.
But I think, so this is why goals are important. And I will have, my goal, I want to try and get to the North Pole. I want to set up my my CIC, Adventurous Hours, and support other people getting into the outdoors. So they're my goals. So you would have your goals. If you had 50 goals, okay, maybe you need to thin those down a little bit. If you have this goal and mentor saying, okay, I don't think that you're going to be able to achieve that. Okay, that's where you have the conversation. Why? And it's not just, I don't have just this one big goal. I have these tiny goals to get there on the way.
Wider them.
Oh, yeah, part of them. And I might not make it to the North Pole. It is incredibly hard. No woman has done this solo, unsupported, ever in history. Yeah. Nobody's even been there for 10 years. Nobody's done the solo trip for 10 years. But you can't fail unless you try. And just imagine if I made it here to the start point. Even that is a huge achievement.
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty important as well. It's not just about that big top goal over there. So you might as well try anyway. Yeah. Just imagine what you can achieve on the way.
100%. It's about the journey. It's not about the view at the end. Just quickly, because Harry mentioned it about mentorship. Mentorship is good, again, what you mentioned, but I think kade-kade na limit we kar diya, it depends on the mentor. ਸਾਡੇ ਦੋਵਾਂ ਦੇ ACL, he had like both knee surgery and I have one knee surgery. And while we were going through the physio said, he's good physio, but obviously he has to protect myself as well. ਉਹਨੇ ਫਿਰ ਇੱਦਾਂ ਹੀ ਦੱਸਣਾ ਕਿ he said, you can't walk yet, but I felt like I could. So ਜਦੋਂ ਮੈਨੂੰ feel ਲੱਗਾ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ walk ਕਰਕੇ ਆਊਂਗਾ, I did walking and jogging as well. My wife's a physio as well. She hates me now. So I went, and then I went back to the physio, and physio said, I think you can jog for like 2 kilometers now. I'm happy with that. And I told him I've done 28K. I didn't tell you. So he's like, that's good, because if you feel like you can do it, do it. Because sometimes he doesn't want to put it on a piece of paper and give it to me, because then he'll be in trouble. He has to follow some rules and regulations. And he said, if you want to push yourself. And I think if mentorship is in that way, that's good. But if mentor will say, no, you're going too far, you're going too fast, that can still limit you.
Oh, yeah. So there's two different things here. One, I would say, is just from the medical point of view. The only time I'd say for the restrictions is to protect the repair that's been done. So that's the only time. But in terms of everybody has their own plate. Yeah. And you might be able to fit more on your plate.
100%, yeah.
So and that's okay. And often, people might limit you from their own experience, and everybody has different experiences. So I think it's just realizing that as well. And having a mentor doesn't mean that you have to do everything that person says. It's advice, it's a conversation, and you will grow as well, through that relationship. And you can speak to different people. Me trying to get to Antarctica, I spoke to so many different people. I will now speak to different people trying to go, and I encourage them, speak to different people, because everybody will have, their own views as well, and you might want to do things a different way, and that's okay. Learn from others. And, I think that's my greatest asset, actually. I'm sick, and, I think my greatest asset is learning from others.
It's also, I think the other way is you just need to realize when you need to slow down, because people like us, who are very fit or we are ambitious, we want to do a lot of things and we like to push ourselves.
Yeah, that's true.
But we also need to know, just listen to our body and know when to stop, when to take a break, that sort of
100%.
stuff.
And that is something I find hard. I'm not the most patient person with myself. And after a trip, I know I'm going to struggle. And even then, I still struggle with that time.
That 28K that I mentioned, I went for a jog and I was obviously recovering. I've never done that before. I only did it because I was on the bed for like last 6 months. So I was like, I need to do something. And I took a 600 ml water bottle with me, and it was a hot day. I finished that in the first 10-20 minutes, and then I was jogging and walking for the next 6 hours. I didn't have water at all, but I just wanted to finish it. That could have gone bad.
Yes,
but again, what you said, it's just, you can't control it. It just comes from within.
Yeah, I think so I've done things in the past where I just pushed and I was like, oh, I don't have this. And then I realized for Antarctica, I can't afford to do that. The conditions are so extreme and I'm so far from support that I need to be prepared. And I've made mistakes. I mean, my second trip, I made so many. The third trip, I hardly made any. The processes were in place. But you learn, don't you? You learn from that. And I've heard quite a few people actually say, like uncles say, don't make mistakes, learn from my mistakes. And I think there's still that mentality. You're then saying that mistakes are bad to make, and I don't think they are.
I think maybe they're just saying you don't always need to make every mistake.
No, that's true.
Because there's so many mistakes you can
Apni
inni life lambi nahi hai mainu lagda.
That's fair. Yeah.
I think that's what they're trying to say.
That's fair enough. Yeah.
No, thank you so much. We learned a lot today.
Thank you.
And I think you passed on your energy to us. I can feel it. Hopefully we'll go whenever this podcast broadcast to everyone who's watching. But thank you so much.
Amazing. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਤਾਂ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਬਹੁਤ ਧੰਨਵਾਦ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇਹ ਐਪੀਸੋਡ ਨੂੰ ਐਂਡ ਤੱਕ ਦੇਖਿਆ। ਸਾਡੀ ਇੱਕ ਰਿਕੁਐਸਟ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਆ, ਤਾਂ ਕਿ ਆਪਾਂ ਇਦਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਮੀਨਿੰਗਫੁਲ ਕਨਵਰਸੇਸ਼ਨਸ ਇਹ ਪੋਡਕਾਸਟ 'ਤੇ ਕਰਦੇ ਰਹੀਏ ਅਤੇ ਹੋਰ ਵੱਧ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਧ ਸਕਸੈਸਫੁਲ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਪੋਡਕਾਸਟ 'ਤੇ ਲਿਆਈਏ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਬਹੁਤ ਕੁਝ ਸਿੱਖਣ ਨੂੰ ਮਿਲਦਾ। ਤਾਂ ਇਹ ਚੈਨਲ ਨੂੰ ਸਬਸਕ੍ਰਾਈਬ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਕਰਿਓ। ਇਹੀ ਇੱਕੋ ਇੱਕ ਤਰੀਕਾ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਸਪੋਰਟ ਕਰਨ ਦਾ। ਬਾਕੀ ਕਮੈਂਟ ਕਰਕੇ ਵੀ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਦੱਸਿਓ ਕਿ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਐਪੀਸੋਡ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇੱਕ ਕਿਹੜੀ ਚੀਜ਼ ਪਸੰਦ ਆਈ, ਅਤੇ ਜੇ ਕੋਈ ਕਮੀ ਪੇਸ਼ੀ ਰਹੀ ਉਹ ਵੀ ਦੱਸ ਦਿਓ, ਅਗਲੀ ਵਾਰੀ ਆਪਾਂ ਦੂਰ ਕਰ ਦਾਂਗੇ। ਬਾਕੀ ਆਪਾਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਮਿਲਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਅਗਲੇ ਐਪੀਸੋਡ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ। ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰੀ ਫੇਰ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਬਹੁਤ ਧੰਨਵਾਦ। ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਪਿਆਰ ਭਰੀ ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ।